Wednesday, March the 8th. Lake level looks like it's come up a little bit. It's right at about 9:07. We had quite a bit of rain the other night, and we're supposed to be getting some more, so maybe it'll come up some more. But the water temperatures, kind of about the same as it's been. It's ranging anywhere. It's probably averaging about 50, 51 degrees. My wife wanted me to mention that if you like the fishing report, hit that little like button. Because nobody pays us to do these reports, and I guess what that does, it helps as far as our guide service, as far as our site popping up. I don't know all the technicalities of it, but anyway, she said hit the like button. But as far as the fishing, I think fishing's been really good. I've had last couple weeks have been real good to me. I fished a tournament 2 weeks ago, and then I fished the Bassmaster Open this past weekend, and finished up fifth in it, and I finished up second in the one before that. What I'm going to do is kind of go over how I caught my fish the last 2 weeks or so. I don't see too much changing, and my last 2 or 3 fishing reports, you'll notice that I've emphasized so much that the fish a lot of them are still out in open water, but they're not really that deep. They've been suspended anywhere from 10 down to about 20 feet. And there has been some fish down there deeper in that 25 to some as deep as 40 or 45. I catch some keepers doing that, but the majority of them aren't the quality fish. It seems like the better quality fish have all been up in that 10 to 15 foot range. And I've been fishing all over the lake the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago in that tournament, my better quality fish were coming on jerk baits out of isolated cedar trees and some crankbait fish as well. But I think what happened to a lot of the jerkbait and crankbait fish, I think those are fish that have been up there all winter long because it never got that cold. And we just had so much extreme fishing pressure over the last 2 weeks between all the tournaments, people practicing for the tournaments. I think a lot of them fish there really got beat up. So I think the majority of the fish that were caught are fish that have yet to move up. They've come up out of the deeper water, and I think they will be going to them trees where I was catching them a couple weeks ago. As the water warms up a little bit more, we'll have more and more fish staging. But I was looking at the Bassmaster's site today and listening to the guys at the tournament, and I think probably 9 of the top 12, everybody basically caught their fish the same way. Different ends of the lake, and a lot of that was on different swim baits. Some guys were throwing underspins. The last day of the tournament this Saturday, my best bait was a little 2.8 Kitech on a 5/16 ounce head. But throughout the week, I was catching them on a number of different baits. This is a White River Lures. It's a 1/4 ounce underspin with the same bait on it. And it doesn't have to be a Kitech. I mean, you could throw a fluke on there, a baby fluke. You could throw a 4 or 5 inch grub. And you could also throw the 4 or 5 inch grub on just a head like this. Another thing I've also been doing is, this is just a swim bait by itself on a 3/8 ounce head. I'm just kind of mixing the baits up to see if they want the big one versus the small one. But I can tell you the whole key, and it has been for me for about 2 or 3 weeks, you really got to keep an eye on the birds. And it's happening kind of all over the lake. It's not happening everywhere. It's not happening the same every day. But if you see them gulls flying around, take the boat over there. I don't care if it's out in the middle of the channel, out in the middle of the lake. Idle around where them gulls are. Keep an eye on your electronics. What's happening is there's been a pretty good morning bite, and then later in the afternoon, as the sun warms the water up in the morning, the sun have been coming up higher. I mean, the shad have been coming up higher. The fish have been coming up with them. A lot of the key areas, some of it's centers of the creek, some of it's main lake points, some of it's out over gravel points. But for the better quality fish, the key for me has been finding some of these points in areas that have got deep submerged timber, where the timber is coming up to anywhere from 10 feet to 25 feet from the surface. And that's basically what I'm doing. I'm swimming these baits over the top of that. Now, when the gulls, if you find an area that produces, when the gulls are going crazy and the fish are feeding real good, if they stop, what you can do is you can take a drop shot or just this little Kitech or a grub, excuse me, and drop it down in the treetops anywhere from 25 to 35, 40 feet, and you can still catch a few fish. You know, not the quality that I can when I'm swimming it. It seems like a lot of the fish I'm actually going over with my boat, seeing them on the electronics, and I'm either casting behind the boat or I'm backing the boat off and casting back to them. And like I say, those are anywhere from 10 to 20 foot deep. It seems like when those fish are less than 20 foot deep, you can't hardly get the boat over the top of them and vertically fish them. You know, another thing I noticed too in my live wells, I always keep an eye on, especially when I'm fishing tournaments and I've got fish in the live well all day. At night, I check my live wells to see what the fish have been belching. And I haven't seen absolutely no sign of crawdads, of claws, or orange pieces. You know, it's pretty much all been shad and scales. So that kind of tells me that, you know, they're not on a jig real good. The fish are really keen on shad. That might change tomorrow. It might change a week from now. They will start getting on a jig as they move up in there shallower. But, you know, right now, a lot of them fish are just staging, you know, pretty close to where they're going to spawn. Certain times of the day, they come up higher in that water column, and they're a little easier to catch. And like I say, you know, one day I'd fish up the James, the next day I'd fish up the White. The last day of the tournament, I fished up around the dam. And, you know, I know it's kind of happening up and around Campbell Point. The same patterns are kind of working all over the lake, and it should continue to, because as these fish do start to move up where I can catch them on a jerkbait or crankbait a little better, there's still going to be more of these fish that are coming up out of that deep water. So, you know, like I say, to me, you know, I'm catching a lot more keepers every day. You know, I was catching about 10 to 12 keepers a day the last 3 or 4 days, you know, in the tournaments. So the number of quality bites getting better and better. It seems like if you want to just catch fish, there's still a lot of fish to be caught vertical fishing on a drop shot. I find a lot of them are small Kentuckys. Seems like the bigger ones, I got to get around that timber and swim them baits. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.